Hey everyone, Stacbor here. Today we're going to do a quick video on my settings as I've gotten a couple of requests for it. I'm going to throw up some screenshots of my settings real quick, and I'll put the INIs in the description. If you just want the quick version, the video will go into more depth if you want that. Thanks for watching. So first off, we're going to go to our settings, and here's the audio settings. It's going to be mostly personal preference there. I don't have anything special there. I do have my frame rate capped, but I have frame gen on, so I'm getting more like in the mid 250s at peak. You want to make sure you got VSync off, unless you have a lot of screen tearing, but I would recommend it off. And the resolution scale is a big setting. It is going to be harder to run at 100%, but the game looks way better. Here are my settings. It's nothing special. It's not super optimized, but here's what I'm running. I don't think I touched my UI much, but there's a little bit in here that I'd like to talk about. These ones are going to be important in the bottom left here. Disable menu transitions. So when you're opening and closing your inventory, it's going to be very quick. Or any vaults or anything like that in any of the inventories. On toggle extended HUD info, if you hit H, it'll show like your current durability and everything. So in the bottom right, you got your extended HUD info. You can see the HPs of your armors. As well, you can see some other stuff, but it's toggleable here. And you'll be able to see like different stuff on like structures. The other big setting here is going to be join notifications. If you're playing 1x, that's pretty important. If you're playing smalls, it's going to be a lot less. You're just going to see when somebody's joining, or if you got a bunch of enemies joining. It's kind of important. I have it off because it gets annoying. So there's just so many people joining and leaving on smalls all the time. Camera settings, there's a few things in here that's pretty important. Sensitivity is going to be your personal preference. I have third-person camera offset off. My camera view bob's off. That one's quite nice. And disable third-person camera interpolation, I have that on. So your character is going to move in third person, and the camera follows it different ways depending on your settings here. But this is what I run. This is what I like. Shake scale, I'd recommend 0. Otherwise, the screen be shaking a whole lot. Cosmetic settings, never even touch those. Here's the advanced settings. I think the only thing I changed in here really was the cosmetic download speed. I turned it up because I think it's pretty low by default, and the cosmetics are just loading pretty slow. We had a lot of random PV stuff. It's pretty fun. You also change your max death markers. I got mine on 5. I assume that's the default, but I have no idea. I don't like a super cluttered map, but having a couple of them are nice. Here's going to be the keybinds. Pretty much the same thing I was running on AC. I'm going to go over the important settings. So the use slots, you're going to want to make sure that you can use them all effectively. I don't have anything bound past 6. I have my other keybinds rebound so that I have these use slots on the end, on Q, G, my mouse button, and Z, so I can get to them really easily. You want to make sure you can use your whole hotbar effectively. Another very important one's going to be a drop item. You gotta make sure that's bound on something. You can drop items very quickly. So I've got on tilde. It's going to be the button next to 1. And what that allows me to do is if I need to drop something quickly, I can open up my inventory, tilde, and it just drops stuff. Another important one's going to be your whistle follow all. It's going to be your J whistle. You're going to want to just unbind that. And if you need to unbind something, you want to unbind this, well, just set it to a key and then reassign the key to something else. So you can assign this to, whatever you want, and then just assign something else to the same key, and it'll remove the bind from that. Another fairly important setting is going to be your toggle fists. Make sure you have that bound. It's really nice. Tribe manager is always nice to have. I just leave it on the default. And I have my whistle selection on the mouse button. So let me do all my whistle commands on that wheel very easily. Now I would recommend binding these set gammas. I'm pretty sure you can still use these if you assign these to a key. I was using left bracket, right bracket, and it just lets you change your gamma really easily. I just type it in the console. Not a big deal, really. You don't change your gamma that much. I don't use a controller on here. Okay, so the next important part, and arguably more important than the settings, is going to be your INI. So previously you had an INI file that you changed on ASE. That was a long time ago. Now you're going to have these console commands. So you're going to type whatever you need in here in your console. Make sure you have your console on a button that you can get to pretty easily, as you enter console commands fairly often on here. I think it works a little bit different on console, but I don't play console, so I can't speak on that. I'm going to put the INIs in the description for exactly what I'm talking about. So the first one is just going to be a general INI that I used. And this is the one I used almost all my videos. And this one I consistently used and liked. So here's going to be your vanilla Ark look with my settings. This is going to be generally how the game looks. We're on center. As nighttime, it's a little bit foggy. You can see alright. The game looks pretty nice. But for PvP, is the INI that I was running almost always. And it's going to make the game way more clear. Your FPS are going to be better. There is problems with this one. It's not perfect. As you can see in the distance there, there's flickering. So sometimes you have a little bit of flickering. A lot of the INIs, the water flickers even. If you look at that island in the far, like little islands very far there, they're flickering. It's not perfect. That whole landscape in the back, there's definitely some flickering. But general for playing, it's not that hard of an INI, but you can see very well. And then the next important parts are going to be the water. Alright, so we're back on the vanilla INI, and the next important one is going to be the water. So as you can see, the water is very hard to see. It's very foggy. You really can't see very far at all. And if you go to the depths here, there's just nothing. Completely murky. Can't see anywhere. And here's going to be the water with the INI on. As you can see, it is way better. You can actually see anywhere in the water. And then another thing you can mess around with is a command ScreenPercentage. And I'll show you this now. I would not bring this very high. I only used it on 100, but it kind of cleans up the fog and underwater, makes it a little bit easier to see. You can put it way higher and it'll lag your game like crazy. Would not recommend that. But as you can see, I put it on 200 there. You can see very well in the water, but I'm getting all sorts of artifacts on my screen now. So I don't know how much I'd recommend that. I typically ran 100 if I used it. I don't think I used it very often, but you can play around with the number if you really need to see a little bit better in the water. I don't know what the default would be, but here's 50. As you can see, it's blurry in the water. I liked it on 100. It doesn't lag your game. I don't really have any artifacts. It makes it nice and clear. And we got one more command. It's going to be to help see through the ground a bit. So we can go in photo mode. When you press your camera into the ground, you can kind of clip through sometimes. If you get in the right spot, you can see through. When you press your camera into the ground here, sometimes you can get your camera to clip through the ground and see. Like, okay, yeah, we can see through the rock here. I don't know. Yeah, you can see a little bit in Kcam too. This command, if it still works, basically just set your collision for your camera. differently so you can see under the ground better. So see, everywhere I go now I can see through the ground. So when you're near some sort of ground plane, you can adjust it basically just so you can see through a lot of rocks, a lot of ground. It'll let you scout bases better, rat holes better, anything you need to see through the ground. You'd be able to see, if there's something in there. And it works with K-Cam as well, but I just recommend photo mode for any scouting nowadays. So that was my quick settings video. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Anything to find my relevance again. What's the difference if it all gets blown apart? Maybe in the ashes we all have a heart. But what's the difference?